A lot of folks that we have on the broadcast these days come on and say there is some form of an AI bubble.
It's like Amazon, OpenAI, and Goldman Sachs have warned that these stock valuations are getting too high. And if they fall short of expectations, then, quote, investors will pull back and the bubble will pop.
I don't believe we're in an AI bubble. And the reason for that is we're going through a natural transition.
Bill Gates saying on Squawk Box that a ton of these investments will be dead ends. The possibility of an AI bubble,
Tech companies are pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into building a new generation of AI data centers.
A simple answer is we better hope not.
Welcome back to Continuing the Conversation, where we cut through the noise and talk about what's actually happening beneath the headlines. Everyone is talking about this so-called AI bubble. Wall Street is panicking, analysts are drawing lazy.com parallels, and let's be honest, someone might even bring it up over turkey at Thanksgiving next month. But here's the thing, if you're using old school economic yardsticks to measure what's happening right now, you're already looking in the wrong direction. This isn't a bubble, it's a measurement failure. I'm Chelene Martin, AI enthusiast, business strategist, and someone who spends a lot of time helping people stop treating AI like just another tool and start using it like a true thinking partner. And today, we're going to talk about why this bubble talk isn't just wrong, it's dangerously distracting. Rob, the CEO of CharmIQ, welcome back. I know that you've got thoughts on this hot topic, so let's dive in. So this lazy.com comparison keeps popping up. It's like the gospel. It's kind of everywhere right now. But when you look closer, it's really like apples to Einstein. Why are people so stuck on this narrative right now? And what are they missing about what's actually really happening? It's really easy to get caught up in this noise, so I'm glad you're here to help us break it down.
Thanks for that question. I love that notion of that it's a lazy parallel, because it's so true. Ever since we all went through that dot-com burst, every single thing that has happened since is like everyone's freaked out about this bubble. I'll admit, not a lot of people outside of Silicon Valley were that affected by this bubble. So like the housing bubble was probably one that people should worry about more. But because we're in tech, we're going to talk about the dot-com bubble and everything else. And yes, it's a lazy analogy. So what's interesting is I was literally just before we did this, I was on a call with a venture capitalist and we were talking about things, and the usual discussion comes up is like, well, what do you think? And like, is it a bubble? And his statement was actually kind of a funny one, which I think is almost true, which is if you're asking people if this is in a bubble and you're not really getting good yes or noses out, like it's probably in a bubble. But the question really is like, what does that mean? And how does that affect your day to day and so forth? I think we just like things in these little sound bites so that we can kind of watch the slow plane crash or everything else. So let me try to tease this apart in just a couple of things. And then let me try to get to the meat of what we should really be talking about. So what's interesting is the dot-com bubble was a whole lot of companies went public that really had nothing behind them. And I would say, and I would have to look into this to make sure that I'm not full of crap, but we're at one of the lowest times of IPOs from tech companies. I can only think of one or maybe two that happened this year. So just almost by definition, like our approach to how companies go public and all that kind of stuff is fundamentally changed since the dot-com crash of many years ago. So I think like the system has better built-in checks and balances such that we don't end up in these cases where you have 1,000 companies that have no value that are going public and so forth. So then that kind of then goes the other way, which is like, are VC firms dumping way too much money in AI? And Sam Altman said it, I'll say it. And the short answer is, of course. Like when you have something like this that comes about, like you have unbridled ecstasy around like just investing fervor. Because why not, right? Like you wait for these moments. So it almost seems dumb if you sat back and in 20 years, somebody asked you, like, did you put any money in the AI bubble if it was one? And like, if for you to say no, that'd be kind of dumb. Cause like, this is pretty exciting. Just like the dot-com, like there is, people put money into it because like there's reasons to do that. You're going to lose some of them for the exact same reasons why when you put too much money on roulette, you're not going to get a hit every time. But there, to say that it's dumb to invest right now is wrong. And of course, people are investing with a lot of vigor. So yeah, there's a lot of money going into goofy crap where there's not a lot of value. Because again, talking to a VC, but a few moments ago, it's really hard to figure out in early phases where the value will be. And what's interesting, if there's one thing that's been shaking out recently, is that people really don't know where the value is in these things. And we'll talk about this later in the podcast around like where our value and whatnot. And I would just simply say this, and again, we'll punctuate it at the end, which is like, if you are deriving value from AI in whatever form you may be using it, then for you, there's no bubble, right? Like if you're not dumping a ton of money into things and if you're investing wisely and you're getting value out of this thing, then who cares whether there's a bubble or not? And then let me talk about one other side of this, which is another reason for the dot-com bubble that happened was there was a large investment in infrastructure that happened that took a long period of time to really suss itself out. And I'm going to kind of, as usual, take a bit of a contrarian viewpoint. Yes, there was a ton of overinvestment at the time, but I will just say that we would not have had the proliferation of the internet that we had the way that we had it unless that had happened. So if we look at the societal impact of that unbridled spending that happened, I would say we are all net positive on that. So of course, again, at the time, like it was way overspent. So now bringing that to today, we're talking about bringing on more data center capacity in a single data center than all the world has had. Like we are talking about gigawatt data centers, and we can have a whole other podcast talking about the size, the scale. Like if you haven't looked up what is the current capacity in data center in terms of gigawatts today, and you look at what's being projected over the next couple of years, like it is mind blowing. And that's going to take money. That's going to take huge investment. Is it going to have the same problem that we had in the dot-com bubble? Like, are we going to overinvest? And I would say 50-50 maybe, but again, my gut says that over the long term, when you look at the 20-year horizon of this, we will have kicked this thing off and it will be available for us once the value chains are figured out and everything else. So sure, few people are going to lose their shirt coming over this thing. Like it always happens. You can bet on that. There's going to be people that win. But at the end of the day, again, I think that the investment that's happening in this is going to pay off in spades once we, again, figure out what the value chain is.
So it's exactly. And this is the most thing that people miss. The dot-com was about building pipes, infrastructure, right? And AI is about unlocking intelligence, right? So it's like we're trying to price something infinite with a calculator built for scarcity, or, you know, trying to measure the ocean with a measuring cup, right?
There's definitely a different yardstick problem going on here. And you touched on it there, and let's talk about this really briefly, which is capitalism works because of scarcity, right? Like the reason you can price things the way that you price them is that you have to produce them and they cost money to make and money to distribute and money to deliver. And because of all of the investments that we put into the internet and everything else, like we now have, for the most part, a lot of us have really cheap internet access that's extremely reliable and everything else. So when it comes to thinking about AI, the whole notion of scarcity really goes out the window. Because again, you think about, it used to be that you really looked for a team. Like if you're in startup land, like VCs look for a good team, and you're looking for like that diamond in the rough because like you need the right team of the right balance, because like there's so few of them and it's really hard. Like they have to hit it and have to hit it right. And again, it's a scarcity problem. It used to be that companies couldn't grow very fast because it's really hard to get the capital to hire more people, and it's hard to get new people, and it's hard to get the right new people. And again, it's all around scarcity. But what in the devil is going to happen when I can just take the same dude that I have and I can multiply him by 30? I can just, in as many windows as I can open, I can run parallel tasks, different ideas that I'm working on and everything else. That scarcity notion's gone out the window. And again, I'm talking to VCs and everyone's like, well, what's your moat? What's this? What's that? And my answer is like, it's the wrong question anymore. Like you cannot be talking about that. Like, sure, few moats still exist. You have things that are highly regulated, like healthcare. You have things that are commoditized that are scarce, like data that competitors may not have access and have the advantage of using that. But once you get beyond that, everyone's asking like, well, why can't OpenAI just produce this tomorrow? And the short answer is basically for everything that does not have regulated or otherwise those kind of modes, anyone can do anything tomorrow. And that's what's going to happen. And we have to come up with a different set of questions. And I would say, again, this is why people are talking about like, what does post-capitalism look like and things like that, which is like, again, how do you start to value things in a society in which that you can just produce whatever you want on demand as you need it? And as we can see, like the price of intelligence is going down with these models year after year. Funny enough, I just literally got in my inbox the deprecation warning for Sonnet 3.7, which is crazy. It's going to be end of life in February of next year, which is what, 3 months away-ish? And so that was like the highest end model a year ago that was at selling like $70, whatever. And now you can get Haiku, which is a better model at fractions of penny on the dollar. And again, like, what does all that mean? And you put that in the context of a bubble. Are we in a bubble? Like, what does all this mean?
This is where everything flips, right? Our markets are built to price things that are rare. But what happens when intelligence isn't rare anymore, right? When you can spin up, like you said, an entire strategy, an app, or a marketing team like in an afternoon.
Yes.
So the old equation, I think what I'm hearing you say is the old equation just break, right? So if you keep treating AI like a cost line, you miss the value curve entirely.
Yes.
Yeah. You've talked about something I kind of want to bring up here because I'd love for you to share it. You've talked about the idea that failing 2 hours behind means staying 2 hours behind. And that is wild to me. It really hit me when you explained that to me, and explain why this is such a fundamental shift in the competitive dynamics, because it doesn't only apply here, it applies to a lot of things.
So bringing what we just said about scarcity, what's really interesting is once you're in a space where everyone basically has the same models, and as the intelligence grows, if you have two people coming into the market at the same time, it used to be access to capital, it used to be mind share, it used to be like all of these moats that were around scarcity would really prevent that from happening. But that really isn't a thing anymore, which is really bizarre. The analogy that I come up with was, if you're now 2 hours behind, there's no way to catch up. Again, you all have the same capabilities. You have the same ability to derive, again, intelligence on tap. You want 4 ounces of Einstein and a little bit of Newton or whatever. Like, you pour those into your cup and you go. Everyone has access to that. And so that's a really weird race that we're now into. Again, thinking about moats and thinking about all this other stuff. It may, and I never want to get to the place where you should feel bound by the fact that if you haven't started, then you're lost. That's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to project into the future and just say we're going to move to a place where, because the intelligence has got to a certain point, because the tools have gotten to a certain point, that just simply because you haven't yet entered the market, you may never catch up because the people are in front of you. So the way this came up was, recently we added the ability to allow your charms to produce applications and use them with you in your workspace. And I'd actually done a video. If you hadn't seen it, I just recently put it up online. And I forget what this means in a context. So I was showing how to build a mashup of a website. And I don't know how many times I've done this, but the dude will put in placeholders for images or icons and things like that. And normally I have to go through and you have to think about, like, what's the symbolism mean and what icon do I have available and everything else. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't we just have the dudes go figure it out? So I literally gave them access to the ability to find the icons. And the dude's like, well, I just need to be able to go get these things and pull them down, and I'll just put them into the document for you. And it literally built itself a tool to go find and get the icons that it wanted, and then it added them to the document. And I'm just sitting there, I'm literally watching this, flabbergasted. And I always say, like, I'm so happy when I catch it on film. But I caught this one on film where the dude's just like, yeah, I'm going to go build that. And then he just starts using it. And when you're in a world where the dude's just like, yeah, I got your back. Like, I'm going to go build that tool. I'm just going to go start using it. Like, if you didn't start that task, like, there's no way you're going to catch up to the person that did start that task, because my dude's just off running, like, he's going. So it is such it used to be that you did a wait and see. And because, again, scarcity was there, like, that's not a problem anymore. I was just creating decks and slides and so forth. I have my dudes, literally dozen dudes, creating a dozen different decks, and I go across and I pick and choose the pieces I want, and I take the mashup. Like, that was never possible before, that I would come to a pitch meeting with 3 or 4 decks based on the way that the pitch is going, because it used to take weeks to build a stupid pitch deck. And now I come in there and I've got like hundreds of slides, all that are great. It just really is fine-tuned to an environment. I can't imagine the person that's like still just trying to sit there and trying to build their pitch deck and iterate on their pitch deck. And I'm walking in with 4 or 5 pre-prepared pitch decks. It's a really crazy world that we're living in now.
It is. And the wait and see mindset, it's not neutral anymore. It's really a compounding loss, right? You're not pausing. You're like silently drifting further behind. And it isn't about the hype really, because it's here. All these tools are available now. All of these opportunities are available for everyone. And it's about speed and infrastructure and who gets to build the new foundation everyone else will eventually stand on. And that's the most exciting thing to me.
Totally.
And I do see this all the time with clients. They're trying to measure AI the same way that they measure a CRM rollout. And I mean, they're like clutching at their old spreadsheets, like some kind of security blanket.
Yes.
And it's like, it's frustrating for me, but also exciting that I get to show them and kind of open their eyes to it. What would you say to a CFO or a business leader who's using old metrics to judge something new, something fundamentally new like AI?
Yeah, it is such a crazy time to be alive. And I can't tell you the number of times I'm texting friends just saying like, what a world. Like, I can't imagine a world in which I have on tap the intelligence that I have. And again, if I'm sitting here, look, and I'm not saying don't be fiscally responsible. That is by no means the things that I'm saying. But like, if you're trying to compare, say, your $100 Charm subscription to like the cost of a chair or something like that, like if you're literally looking at your P&Ls and you're just like, where does this fit? Like with my one Charm subscription, here I am, like I'm producing decks. We just put out our website. We've been waiting just to get like all of the bits together. Cause once you have like your look and feel of the website that you want, then you can build your deck around it. And in fact, I did that. Like I literally, and that's what's again so crazy about Charm is we built the website in Charm using a mashup of a bunch of sites that we like really like the feel for, and it freaking nailed it. And then we're like, great, print. And then because all that's within Charm, we just told the dude and we're like, look, like take the look and feel of the website. You already have all the copy. You already have everything else. Just like do V1 of the pitch deck. Yeah. And it built probably the best deck that I've ever built in my life, both in terms of the aesthetic and the content.
Right.
And then we took that and we were just starting to do Google ads on some of the stuff that we're doing. And we're like, oh, damn it, we need a landing page. And normally like you have to sit there and like you have to build, like you just have to, it's work, right?
Yep.
And now all of a sudden you're just like, well, I don't have to do that. I have the website. I have the pitch decks. Like it knows what we have. We know what all the offerings are. Like it literally just built the landing page and we're just like, okay, that's done. And again, like the reason I bring all this stuff up, like that's like 5 different tasks that I just talked about. And I'm doing it in one tool in one place with one subscription. And like, you can't measure that the same way that you measured it before. Like, even if you're trying to compare apples to oranges, like we used to use Squarespace. Like there's no way in hell I use it anymore because my deck writing. So like, let's say I use Gamma for writing decks and I use Squarespace for doing this and I use, Cursor for doing that. I don't like, they don't talk to each other. I can't use this thing from that thing. So I can't look at the unit economics that I used to do in this thing as these AI tools like start to proliferate in my environment. So I'm not saying anything specific. I'm saying everything and anything at the exact same time, which is like, it's really hard to find the value in this. And again, roping this back to the whole bubble thing that we started on, everyone's trying to look at this as like investors are dumping in this much money. People are getting this ROI back. And I don't think we're at a point yet where you can honestly talk about ROI. Because like, I can't even explain to you, just as a user of Charm, the number is like literally infinite, right? Like I saved all the money on all the tools that I would do and I saved time. And not only that, but I was able to iterate more and go through more revisions. So it's a better product. It's resonating more with my customers. It turned out a better pitch deck and I had a better conversation with not only customers, but with VCs. It's like, how do I put $1? Like, was that worth the $100 that I spent on that Charm subscription? And I'm just like, I can't even make that distinction. So anyway, so.
Yeah. I mean, if your only question is, and I do get this question a lot, is what tasks can I automate? You
yes. Yes.
For me, it's like you've already missed the plot.
You missed the boat. So like what's
Yeah.
funny in what I just said, and thank you for reminding me about the automation part, is notice nothing in what I just said was a task that I would automate. And nowhere in there am I like, I'm automating my website design.
Yeah.
I'm automating like that was not the statement. I'm not automating anything. Like it enabled me to do a bunch of functions that I couldn't normally do. Like if you're trying to go through your org and find tasks to automate, like you are not thinking about this right, which is you go back to the MIT report and why it said 95% of all of these things, because no one knows how to think about this thing. And then that goes back to the bubble, which is like, if you don't know how to think about it, there's no ROI. So of course it looks like we're in a bubble. So like these are all literally the same point, saying the exact same thing, which is people are just not understanding what this tool is doing. And I would say that's a problem, clearly. And I would say I have that problem as a business, as an AI product business owner. It's really hard to explain to people. It's like, until I literally showed somebody the website in there and me using that website to like literally build the deck, and then how that deck turned into the landing page, like just literally walking through that, and somebody just like, that's possible? And I'm like, yeah, that's what I do all day. And he's like, well, what else? I'm like, well, I needed a spreadsheet. So I just had the dude build a spreadsheet, and like it helped me with the formulas for my APU calculation and like all this other stuff. And it's just like, it's crazy. Like it's hard for me to describe what this specifically is for, because it does everything.
It does. And I think you hit on something really important. So for leaders listening who are genuinely nervous about investing right now, and I talk to a lot of them myself, like what should they be asking themselves instead of obsessing over we're in a bubble, or what's the ROI, or, what's my cost comparison? How do I know if I invest in this, if it's working, am I getting anything out of it? Because I think there's some folks listening, like that's a change. That's like a mind shift change, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what's interesting is when I talk to people who understand and are actually getting a positive to them ROI out of their investment in AI. And I would say, again, in terms of tools, I am not finding a lot of people that are like, use this tool, I got a ton of investment. But in terms of just simply, I don't want to use the word correctly, but efficiently, with all the things that we do in this podcast, all the things we talk about, if you're using your AI, even if it's just ChatGPT and a chatbot, if you're using it in the way that we keep talking about, use it as a collaborative partner, make sure it understands you. Like if that's what you're doing, the conversations you have with those people sound like what I'm saying now. People are like, yes, I used it and I got value in these areas. And you talk to the other people and they're like, and it's funny because this happened to my partner. Her work bought the Copilot for their Microsoft, of course. And like no one's getting any value out of it because they bought a tool and they just expect it to like do something for them, like a spreadsheet. Like it made it easier to do my numbers. And it's like, that's not what it's for. Like you have to change the way that you think and interact. And it's a human problem. It's not a tool problem. So if for business owners, if you're not having conversations with your team about how it's fundamentally changing the way they think and the way that they approach their work, not that they clicked on a button, not that it automated something. Again, if you're talking about how it's changing the way they think and work, then that has a positive ROI. And those are the discussions you want to be getting to. Again, if you're talking about like installing something and like all this stuff, like those are the discussions that are not going to lead anywhere. I know we had a few podcasts back where like, if IT is leading your AI charge, like it's going the wrong way. So again, this has to start at the top. This has to start with discussions around how do you think and how like talk to me about your process. I'm not here to automate it. I just want to understand how do you think about it. And if you're not having those discussions with your staff, like you've got to start having them now.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. It's so imperative and timely, right? Like I often say to folks that I'm talking to, I say, the real question isn't the ROI, right? The real question is what becomes impossible if we don't do this? If we really think of it not like a tool, but like a partner that is intelligent, that makes us, better, stronger, faster version of ourselves. And if your competitors are aren't sitting around debating this and evaluating it, they're the ones laying the foundation, right? And they're the ones already rolling down the runway. And once the plane lifts off, catching up gets a whole lot harder. And that's the quiet, invisible shift
Yes.
like happening underneath the noise. And there are some business leaders that are getting it. There are some people are saying, okay, well, I'll take my mindset and not think of it like a tool, but think of it like an intelligence partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making your staff, making your C-level team better, stronger, faster versions of themselves. And that's the key. And that's the real true power of artificial intelligence, right? And so I think for me and the people I talk to is don't think of it like a CRM. Don't think about it as task automation, like it's going to clean up my email inbox. It's going to make spreadsheets easier. No, it's going to make the human behind the tool better, stronger, faster.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So the next time someone throws around the word bubble or, here's your mic drop response, we're using the wrong metrics. This isn't about overvalued startups back in 1999. It's about outdated frameworks trying to price abundance like scarcity, right? And the companies that get it aren't just adopting AI for automation. They're building the foundation that everyone else will eventually stand on. And more importantly, they're already accelerating down the runway while everyone else is still trying to figure out, how to board the plane. So if you treat AI like a tool, you'll get a tool level results. If you treat AI like a collaborator, a strategic partner, that's where the lasting advantage gets built. So Rob, anything before we sign off here, because there is so much more, especially in the CharmIQ platform. It's not just ChatGPT, bark, kind of a prompt at it and get a response. So there's so much more there for those of us, that are listening. Any last parting words?
What I have found to be the most, and I shouldn't say unexpected, I should say it's exactly expected, but the most delightful part of this is the more that I use these tools. And I would just say, of course you can do this in your ChatGPTs and your Claudes and so forth. But what you're missing is, again, multiple models have vastly different opinions and perspectives and approaches. Why would you want to limit yourself to just one advisor that's saying one thing? Why don't you want to do all those things? And most people say cost. Mm-hmm. And I would just simply say, that's why we built the platform the way we did. You have access to all these models, one simple cost, etc. Again, the value that I'm seeing that I had hoped and prayed would happen, but is actually panning out, is that the more that I use it and the more information that I have in it and the more thoughts that I've had, the more that it has to use for my next set of thoughts. The number of times we've all had this, and I always say this, is how many times have you ever found anything in Google Drive? And the answer is 0. You usually just end up rebuilding it from scratch or calling up somebody, hitting them on Slack and just being like, where's it at? Yep. And I've had the exact opposite problem in Charm. Like, I was looking for testimonials the other day, and it's like bringing together ideas and like all these things, and it shows me the testimonials and it's got this stuff on top of it and everything else. And I'm just like, holy cow, like that just took, I literally thought I had this day-long task of taking the testimonials and turning them into this thing. And instead, like it came bundled as a thought partner. Right. And it's just like, this is incredible. Like, had I not had that information in there, had I not starting years ago and just ensuring that every idea and every thought I have were in there, it's leveraging all that. And I never expected that. Again, I had always hoped that was going to be true, but to actually have the net result to be even better than the thing that I had thought that I was going to have, I just say to everyone again out there, like, just starting. Even if you're just using it for recipes. And again, I'll just say my partner and I have made some of the most fantastic dishes lately. We made this duck the other day with this sauce, and I'm just like, this is incredible. And I'm like, where did you get this recipe? Like, I took a picture of the cabinet, I had some ideas of where I wanted to go, and the dude's just like, go here. And I'm just like, we had this amazing meal. And like, just, that's a small piece of this whole thing. Like, use it for everything.
It is. And it's so intelligent, this machine, right? But the beauty of the machine is it remembers everything. And the more you use it, and this is what I tell clients, friends, family, the more you use it, the better it understands you, who you are as a human, how you speak, how you think, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your opportunities are. And as a business, that's invaluable, right, for your people. So don't think of it just like a spreadsheet or a CRM or an ergonomic chair for the desk, right? It's an actual intelligence on tap, making your staff, your people, your products, your marketing, your sales better, stronger, faster, and all within a unique context that is customized to you. Yes. So Rob, thank you as always for making this conversation both sharp and real. And for everyone listening, keep asking better questions. And that's how we all get ahead. If you have any comments, please share. Any questions, please do. Share this episode with someone, maybe a boss or someone you think might help. And remember, you have to start, and it's never too late. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Rob. Bye.